Okay, so for my Ignite presentation, I wanted to talk about the intersection between two topics that I've been incredibly interested in researching about and studying over the course of the last few years, and honestly throughout my entire life: social media and video games, and how they're intertwined and how they're going to be marketed through social media in the future. Uh, to begin, I did some research. I found sources. I'm not going to directly cite them for the sake of the time and this being a Ignite presentation, but we use our cell phones way more than ever. I'm sure that's very obvious. People rely on their phones to communicate and engage with each other. They're basically like computers in our pockets these days. And on those phones, we have social media. Social media and gaming have been intertwined from nearly the beginning. Gaming content and Let's Plays have been around for many years now. And in addition to that, there's a lot of active communities online for gamers to engage with and make friends with other gamers. So, this is going to lead me to something that you're probably very well aware of, but there was a pandemic recently. The COVID-19 pandemic absolutely shook up the world and how we tend to act, interact, behave with each other, especially around technology. And a big part of this is because people were isolated and alone. People had to spend a lot of time alone. They weren't able to see their friends and family in fear of spreading the disease or contracting the disease. So this kind of turned them towards streaming. A lot of people picked up streaming as a hobby, myself included. I did actually start streaming around the time of the pandemic a little bit, but also a lot of people tended to watch a lot more streams online on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It was this kind of live interactivity, kind of felt like you were talking with a friend live and in person. So it was this kind of replacement for that type of interaction. And not only did that grow, but also YouTube as a platform grew kind of as this more long term, long form type of focus. But YouTube gaming as a whole definitely had a lot of success during the pandemic. A lot more people had free time, so they spent a lot more time on this. And finally, TikTok was actually relatively small before the pandemic, but it has grown to be a massive social media hit. If you ask almost anyone around college age, high school age, even younger, they probably know what TikTok is. My parents know what TikTok is. It is a massive success because it's short form content that is easily digestible and easy to create. And also, gaming, just in general, did much better during the pandemic. People weren't able to be with their friends and family, so they were able to kind of connect with them through this digital medium where they were able to still participate in activities, just not in person. So they were playing games together more often. And this leads me to a little bit about my childhood. I've definitely touched on this a bunch in the class, but I grew up hard of hearing. So I kind of spent a lot of time isolated and alone, like people during the pandemic. So I just was always naturally gravitated and drawn towards activities like gaming and online content creation. So for my topic, just in general, Riot Games is one of the largest game producers in the entire world. They are very well known for their hit game League of Legends. If you know video games, you probably know League of Legends. It's infamous for being incredibly difficult, but also incredibly rewarding and fun to play. It's the defining front of the MOBA and esports scene. It is incredibly popular, but first person shooters are also a very popular genre. As multiplayer games have become more mainstream and have risen in popularity, first person shooters alongside them, especially in the competitive world, have also grown massively in popularity. So Riot Games wanted to dip their toes into it with their game Valorant. Valorant is, I would argue, a hybrid between two other very popular first person shooters, Counter-Strike and Overwatch. And in order to release Valorant, they actually launched it in a closed beta, which was, people have done closed betas in the past, but the way they distributed it was very interesting. Valorant was directly working with Twitch and Twitch streamers in order to release their game. So streamers would basically stream their game and viewers would be able to gain closed beta access, which was really interesting because the people that were streaming these closed beta games ended up being the initial community of content creators centered around Valorant. So, not that Valorant was probably going to struggle at launch to find creators, but the people that were streaming in the closed beta ultimately ended up being that first wave of content creators, and many of them are still affiliated and play a ton of games of Valorant to this day. And also, viewers of the game got this rare opportunity to kind of see this game firsthand. A lot of the times, video game advertisements are very cinematic. They don't necessarily show a lot of gameplay. But with the closed beta of Valorant, people were able to see firsthand how the game played and form their own opinions and judgment on them. And they actually made a bunch of balancing changes in the closed beta based on player feedback, which I thought was really cool. And the closed beta was a success. Valorant is still very successful to this day, but right out of the closed beta, there was already a massive community around the game. I think in large part due to the strategy of advertising with social media, Twitch, and streamers. And finally, we get to a more modern example. Very, very recently, Overwatch 2 released within the last few months, and they did the exact same thing. They launched the game in closed beta. It brought a lot of hype and popularity around the game, and I definitely think this is a strategy that will be implemented by game developers and streaming platforms, as well as streamers going forward. I think it's a total win-win-win. That's all. Thank you very much.